On Friday, we sat down with House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, who was working to round up the votes among Democrats to become Speaker once again. We began our discussion with the Democrats' call for the new acting Attorney General to recuse himself from overseeing the Mueller probe after the president asked Attorney General Jeff Sessions to step aside last week. Do you think under Whitaker that the integrity of this investigation is in peril?
Yes, I do. First of all, I think that he should recuse himself for any review of the investigation because of statements he has made already in the public domain about the fact that this investigation should not...
You don't have confidence in him as America's top enforcement officer?
No, I don't. And I don't just take it from me. There's bipartisan editorializing about this, that he should never have been appointed, and that it does violence to the Constitution and the vision of our founders to appoint such a person in such a manner to be the chief legal officer in our country. And that's bipartisan.
There are questions about what will happen when Bob Mueller wraps up his investigation, the report and the conclusions he comes to, and whether they will ever see the light of day, because we don't know if they're going to be shared with Congress. In a Democrat-controlled House with subpoena power, would you force that?
Well, we don't know what he will decide and what will be made public, but we do want the truth.
The public has a right to know.
The public has a right to know, and no one is above the law in terms of our having access to that information.
So you don't think it would require a subpoena to the DOJ to release it?
Let us hope not, but the Congress, the beauty of our Constitution is the system of checks and balances, and in doing so to have oversight responsibility to be a check. So in our oversight responsibilities, we would want that information.
What are the bounds of that oversight? Because, you know, one of the concerns you hear is Democrats are just going to issue subpoena after subpoena and make the president's life legally more difficult. Is there a limitation to that you see?
Well, we are responsible. We are not scattershot. We are not doing any investigation for a political purpose, but to seek the truth. So I think a word that you could describe about how Democrats will go forward in this regard is we will be very strategic.
No investigation for a political purpose, you say.
That's right.
A number of Republicans would say, come on. There's always a political upside or downside to moving forward with some of these investigations.
Well, if the Republicans would say that, they're just projecting their own attitude toward investigations, which was very political. We are coming to do something that is very important for our country, a more open Congress with accountability to the public, with a seeking bipartisanship where we can find it, stand our ground where we can't.
The president has been saying that there's election fraud in Florida. What do you think is happening in Broward County? Is this election fraud, and is there a role that Congress needs to play in upgrading election infrastructure?
Well, yes to the second part, but let's go to the first part first. My experience with the president is any time he charges somebody with something, he's just projecting what he might have done himself. We are not engaged.
Election fraud?
Well, obstruction, suppression of the vote. Those kinds of issues are, I think, wrong and not in honor of our sacred right to vote. So no, there is no election fraud. What there is an honest count of the vote.
On immigration, would you try to block any attempt to fund the border wall?
Let's just enlarge that issue into what we need to do as a country. We certainly have to protect our borders, and Democrats know that, and we have always worked to do that.
So you'd be open to supporting this? I mean, as Speaker, would you ever shepherd that legislation?
Protecting our border, and we have done that. And there are many ways to protect the border before tens of billions of dollars building a wall where technology and personnel and the rest could possibly do the job. But whatever it is has to be tied to comprehensive immigration reform. What this administration has done is undermining our values, taking babies out of the arms of their moms. As you're a new mom, you understand that bonding very well. As me, as my mother of 5, grandmother of 9, understand that bonding very well. Let's take the baby out of the arms of their moms. Let's separate families. Shameful. And what the president just did in the last day on the executive order flies in the face of even what the evangelicals, who who are his big supporters, have said, the evangelicals have said, the United States Refugee Resettlement Program is the crown jewel of America's humanitarianism. And what the president did does not recognize what the law of the land is and in terms of refugees.
But Speaker Pelosi, if you're Speaker, as you said you were confident you will be,
yes,
would not in principle oppose a border wall. You would have the conversation if it's part of comprehensive immigration reform?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said that we think there are better ways to protect the border, but everything that we do is related to how many people we protect in our country in terms of comprehensive immigration reform. Remember, the president said we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Well, it's tens of billions of dollars. But again, I think it's wrong. I don't think it's effective. I think it's costly, and I think there's a better way to protect our border.
In the next Congress, there will be at least 100 women in the House. That's a record. We asked Leader Pelosi about the new freshman class.
We got 23 women, got us to the majority, and then we have many men, some of people of color among those men, to take us to bigger heights. I want to salute the quality of our candidates who took their message, their why they wanted to be in Congress, what they cared about and what they knew about that, and how they connected in a very personal way with their constituents. We owned the ground because people were inspired by them, and the outside groups did so much, door to door, telling stories about healthcare and why that was important in this election, and so many other personal stories. So personal stories won the day. Healthcare was the big issue. I'm here to protect that healthcare. In terms of the diversity, we used to be over 50% women, people of color, and LGBTQ. Now we're over 60%. And that's a beautiful thing, that diversity for our country. The additional people who will change the face of security in our country, and of our not only our national security, but our national economy. People say, oh, you're going to have more women, so you'll have more emphasis on childcare. Well, we already have that, and we'll do more. But the point is that every issue is a woman's issue. One
of the issues that Democrats campaigned on was protection of the existing health care law.
Yes.
Republicans and the president have talked about pre-existing conditions and something they want to actually protect. So what does that actually mean in practical sense? Do you think that there is any room for reform of ACA, of Obamacare?
Well, you have two different questions. One is the pre-existing condition as not being a barrier to getting coverage is part of the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans have tried to disrupt that. They did it in their Trump Care or I Don't Care bill that he had, and it was defeated. They now are they didn't succeed in the Congress, so now they're going to the courts. Any large number of Republican attorneys general throughout the country have brought suit against the pre-existing condition benefit, and instead of protecting the law of the land, the president has sided with those attorneys general who want to eliminate that benefit. They misrepresented during the campaign where they were on this. They have another chance now with us in the majority to join us into removing all doubt that the pre-existing medical condition is the law of benefit, is the law of the land.
Does this change anything for you in terms of your sense of needing to stay here?
But
right
the more
needing to stay as Speaker.
Well, I'm staying as Speaker to protect the Affordable Care Act. That's my main issue, because I think that's again about the health and financial health of the America's families. And if Hillary had won, I could go home. Nobody from California ever gets Potomac fever. You may know that. But
that's still your North Star right now, though.
What?
The protection of the Affordable Care Act.
Yes, that. I mean, I hope we will have a woman president very soon, but that's not the fact that we almost had one would have been motivation for me to say there's a woman at the table. It's very important. You cannot have the four leaders of Congress, the President of the United States, these five people, and not have the voice of women, especially since women were the majority of the voters, the workers in campaigns, and now part of this glorious victory. But these women bring each their individual excellence to the Congress, and we're very proud of it. When I came to Congress, there were 12 Democratic women. I said, we have to change this. Now we'll have close to 90. And that's a major accomplishment for the American people, but also for the Congress.
How do you respond to those who say there still needs to be more diversity in leadership, either age-wise, because you look at the other two leaders alongside you and 78 years old.
Yeah. Well, that's what,
do you need to have some of these new progressives who've come in who are younger?
We have had them in the leadership along the way, and that more will be in now that we have more positions. When you have the majority, you have more positions to put people in leadership. But our leadership doesn't just extend to the caucus chair, vice chair, all that. It's about the leadership of our committees. And in our leadership of our committees, we have beautiful diversity: women, people of color, LGBTQ. It's a sight to behold to see all of that diversity, all of that talent leading the way. And some of the people here like being a chair more than they'd rather be chair of the caucus. They would be the chair of the Armed Services Committee or chair of the Financial Services Committee.
And that's how you would resolve these questions.
Well, people have to run. When I first ran, people said, who said she could run? Nobody smoothed the path for me. I've tried to smooth the path for others. But you have to run. You have to want to do it.
Policy-wise, what does that mean?
Policy-wise, that means that the face of national security in our country will be very different and very diverse. We have many women coming in with experience in national security. We have many women here moving up in the ranks on national security, but I want to make sure that everybody has a security credential, whether it's in all the different committees of jurisdiction in that regard. It also means that women will be taking the lead on our economy.
When you've said you're a transitional figure, is that what you're transitioning towards, handing off to these women?
Well, I've always considered myself a transitional figure. I am on a mission, and that mission was to honor what we did with the Affordable Care Act. It stands with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid as pillars of economic as well as health security for the American people. When we had the opportunity to do it, we fought hard and we won, and now we have to protect it, not just as a legislative matter, but as what it means in the lives of the American people. And so I think we're on a good path to protect it. It was the central issue in this campaign, and so many of the outside groups told their stories, walked their precincts, won their votes for us to preserve and protect the Affordable Care Act and improve it.